Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you my little DIY project I did to make my braid life a little bit easier. I will be transforming my typical braid racks into this double-sided 360 spool rack. So if you want to see how I achieve this, make sure you stay tuned. You guys are used to me using these 120 spool racks to prep hair, but the only place I had to put the rack was on top of my dressers. So this limited my range of motion when working through an appointment because I constantly had to move and adjust how close the client's head was to the rack and whether or not I could reach it. This also became increasingly difficult when I started servicing more clients and needed to prep more hair in advance. I was running out of a lot of space to put all the racks. So after brainstorming this for many weeks, I came up with this idea to just sandwich all of my racks together so I could easily store it in a narrow space. I thought it would make the most sense for it to be double-sided because I needed to include as many spools as possible so that I can prep more hair. I also wanted this thing to be mobile so I could easily move it around. So for this project, I'm going to be using two 120 spool racks and two 60 spool racks. That will give me 180 on each side. I get my racks off of Amazon. They typically retail between $25 and $30 each, but I usually wait until there's a special 2 for $40, and that's for the 120s. The 60 spool racks usually retail about $15 a pop, or 2 for $25, or 4 for $40. To piece this thing together, I headed over to my local Home Depot and I picked up one of these 2x2 plywood boards. Then I picked up 4 of these 2x2x8 strips. I got 4 of them, but you really only need 2, so that's only about 10 bucks. So overall, we're looking at about $85 for this total project. That's if you don't count the spray paint, which is totally optional, so more like 100 bucks for the whole thing. This project does require a little wood cutting. Luckily for us, we had the tools on hand to play it by ear, but if you know your measurements beforehand, you can definitely have it cut at Home Depot for free. For the 2x2 strips, I measured them down to 6 feet because I didn't want the rack to be too tall. I'm only 5'2", so I can only reach but so far. But I also wanted it to be high enough so that the lowest spool rack didn't have hair touching the floor. For the plywood board, you'll see I made 4 different even cut marks because I thought I was going to be able to get away with doing a quarter of this board as the base, but I was definitely wrong about that. For this rack to be stable, you definitely need at least half of this board for a sturdy base, so just measure it out so that it's exactly half the width. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. I'm simply going to just screw my racks on each side of the 2 strips. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Hubby dropped in to help me out, but this can definitely be achieved on your own. So remember when we cut the strips earlier? We ended up using the leftover pieces as stabilizers at the base. So you see that small piece connecting the 2 legs at the bottom? Once we got everything stabilized, we went ahead and attached the plywood board to the bottom of the base. We then used some additional leftover strips to attach those as anchors to the base to keep it from wobbling back and forth. And that's pretty much it. The next part is totally optional. You can spray paint this thing any color you wish. I chose white because I like a clean aesthetic, and I went over it 2 times with this Rust-Oleum Paint Plus Primer spray paint. Hindsight is 2020, and I would highly suggest painting all of your pieces before putting them together because spray painting inside the little nooks and crannies and all that was a little bit more difficult. So yeah, if you do decide to paint this, I would strongly suggest doing it before you piece everything together. And that completes the project, you guys. This thing has become incredibly helpful in my task. Every day I'm able to prep at least 4 heads on this one rack alone. I found these hooks at my local Hobby Lobby. I decided to add these later because I needed a place to hang excess hair. I also found that I didn't really need the wheels at first because it was light enough for me to move around, but later I decided I wanted to be more mobile, so I picked up these wheels from IKEA. I think they were only like 10 bucks for a pack of 4, and I attached these to the bottom of the rack, and now it is mobile. So that completes this DIY. I hope it's helpful to you guys, and if you learned something, of course, thumbs it up and share it with a friend. Believe it or not, I actually have another idea for a DIY rack that is mobile that may be more cost effective for you guys. So I will definitely be recording and uploading that video for you as well. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so by clicking the button below and hit that notification bell so that you are notified of my uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!